This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is August 19th, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what is going on, man?
Jonathan, today is August 19th, which is a Monday, which starts a new week. And this week ends with a weekend, and that weekend is the start of college football. And so, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Summer's wrapping up here. And my favorite team happens to kick off the entire college football season on Saturday in Ireland against Georgia Tech. So that'll be an adventure. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm excited about that and excited to be hanging out with you today.
So this is the week that you folks tell me they call week 0 because games count, but it's the season hasn't officially kicked off yet.
Right. It's like the unofficial start to the season. It originally started with games like this. They've been doing this Ireland game off and on for the last maybe decade. I don't know. And it started like that with the Ireland game or whatever other random games like that. But, there's still this game. There's 2 or 3 other games on Saturday. Nothing of note outside of the Ireland game. It's a bunch of smaller schools. And then, yes, starting Thursday, the following Thursday, that's when the real week 1 starts. And it gets really spicy really fast.
So I'm looking here. Okay, so North Carolina plays Minnesota Thursday at 8 o'clock on Fox, but I'm assuming that won't be a nationally televised game. That'll be a local kind of...
On Thursday?
On Thursday.
I bet you that is. I bet you that's Minnesota. Big Boy Fox. If that's what it says. Does it just say Fox?
Interesting. It does just say Fox.
Yeah, the Thursday night game more than likely is. Let's take a look here. Thursday.
I'll have to check that out because ACC football is always difficult to watch. Unless you're looking in for Florida State or Clemson.
No, that's Big Boy Fox because it's at Minnesota and Big Ten is Fox. So yeah, you're on Big Boy Fox that Thursday night, 8 o'clock.
I never want to do the ACC network thing. I just don't watch enough college sports to do that. But on a Saturday, especially the few weeks where college football is going on, but the NFL hasn't started, and I want to watch college football, I would like to watch North Carolina. But back in the day, they used to be on the CW here or and stuff like that. So yeah, always difficult to watch that. But yeah, that'll be exciting. For those that care, this coming Saturday. Just a little bit of small talk here at the top. This coming Saturday, the 24th, for my birthday, Carmen booked me around at Cabot Citrus Farms here near Homosassa, which is one of the hottest new golf courses in the entire country. So I'm getting to play that this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that. Unfortunately, my golf game isn't really at a point that I'm super excited to play well there. But it'll be a pretty cool experience. So,
Jonathan, you mentioned birthday. Remind the folks at home when your birthday is.
August 25th.
Okay.
A week from today.
A week from today, folks, as you're listening to this, hang out, check him out on socials.
Yesterday, if you're listening to this on Monday,
on Sunday,
it'll be next Sunday. We're recording this on Sunday.
Yeah. So. Send him some love on Sunday. Send him some happy birthday wishes. I'm sure he'll be appreciative.
Yeah, definitely. 31 hits a little bit different than 30.
Wait till 32, man.
Yeah, every year into your 30s, I bet feels, significantly worse. You get to 30 and you're okay, I made it through my 20s. Now I'm 30, now I'm in my 30s. But 31 is no, your 20s are a couple of years behind.
Yep.
Sure, you had the first year of I'm 30, it's not that bad. But now you're 31.
Yep.
So that I still feel like I'm 22, 23 years old. So it doesn't really make sense that I'm going to be 31.
Yeah, same. And the fact that I'm 32, I'm I'm thinking now, I've spent just as much of my life driving as I did not driving, and it's it's kind of crazy. And when I get 36 and I think about that, I've been an adult for as much as I was not an adult. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Something threw me for a loop about a year, maybe 2 years ago when I realized it. So Carmen's mother had her at 18, like really, really young.
Mm-hmm.
I met Carmen when I was 19. Carmen was 18 years old. So I think like Carmen's mother was 36. So in 5 years from now, I will be as old as Carmen's mother was when her and I met.
Yep.
And the fact that I'm about to have a 6-year-old.
Yep.
So the last 6 years have flown by. So in 5 years from now, I will be as old as my wife's mother was when I met my wife.
Yep.
Things like that, when you put it that way,
it's not cool.
Makes it seem really bad. I was talking to a buddy of mine today who, we went to high school together. He graduated a couple of years before me. So he graduated in 2009. And we were talking today. I was like, dude, I said, 5 years from now, you're going to be celebrating your 20th high school reunion. 20 years being out of high school. Like when you think back to that time, it doesn't seem like it was all that long ago. Yep. But yet here we are. So
yikes. Can we talk about something else now?
Well, there are a lot of 30-somethings and 40-somethings that are listening to this.
I know,
they're
but
like right there with us.
This is too painful for me. Let's move
okay. So let's talk about this. So we've now been sitting with the schedule for the past 3.5, as you're listening to this, the past 4 days. And you and I on the last episode, we went live, which was a lot of fun. If you haven't checked out that episode, go back and find that, either in the podcast feed or on our YouTube page, where we talked about the schedule for like an hour or something like that. That was a lot of fun. But now that and we made our predictions, now that you've been sitting with the schedule for a few days and you've been our predictions are out there, and the more that other people's predictions are coming out, and the more that you think about it, has your feeling on the schedule or this upcoming season or your predictions, has your feeling on any of that changed in the last couple of days since we last talked?
Yeah, a little bit. I still like, as if you listen to that last episode, we basically counted up our wins and losses, and I came up with 55, which is 5 more than I predicted the Magic would win just a couple weeks ago. And so looking back on that, I'm like, I see how I got to the 55, but looking over my list of wins and losses, I definitely can poke some holes in it. There are many of those losses. I'm like, you know what? We're gonna find a way to lose some of those games. It's the NBA, right? It's the way it goes. And so
we're not gonna win 11 straight games.
Probably not. But like, for example, I had us sweeping every bad team: Brooklyn, Detroit, Washington, like all the bad teams, which the Magic played really well against them last year, right? Obviously. But we're going to lose 1 or 2 of those. Like, I'm talking like those 15 games against the worst of the worst. Like, the Magic are going to lose at least one of those. It's the way it goes. And so stuff like that, like, I think I'm probably back closer to the 50 wins, which is what I said at the end of the episode, where I was like, I feel like 50 is still more realistic than what I came up with, but still feel really positive though. Like, that has not changed. Feeling really positive. The stretch at the beginning of the year is really difficult, really road heavy. We didn't really touch on that on the last episode. I mean, we touched a little bit. We didn't really deep dive into how many road games there are from opening night all the way until, what is that, November 8th, basically. So it's basically a lot of road games at the beginning. But all I had to say, still feel really good. It's a good schedule. I like what we have, and I still think the Magic can make a lot of noise.
You just reminded me of something. Have you watched the show Pardon the Interruption?
PTI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how involved he still is, but like Tony Reale back in the day, at the end would go through and be like, oh, hey, these are the things that you guys missed. We missed something pretty big a couple episodes ago.
Okay.
And people got on us a little bit about it. We were talking about Wemby. We were talking about the Christmas Day stuff. We started talking about LeBron James.
Yeah.
And regrettably, even though the game log was up, we this is what I try to remind people of, and I don't mean this in any type of like condescending way, but when you talk into a microphone and you record it for public consumption, 2 to 3 hours a week, every week for 5 years, like you're gonna say some dumb things. You're gonna make some mistakes at times. So most people were pretty nice about it, but just remember that when you're reaching out, like, hey, idiots,
right?
Just remember, like, the amount of things that you, listener, say in a day in all the conversations that you have, you might be wrong every now and again in there. So, but yeah, that was a massive L on our part.
Big L.
We have to take that L, and we need to wear that L when it happens.
Sure. Yep.
But yeah, we appreciate the people that were, kind when they reached out to gently and lovingly remind us.
Doesn't change the fact that Wemby doesn't need all this attention, and Paolo needs more.
No, I would totally, I would agree with that. And yeah, I still think LeBron was better from day one, and we'll see how their obviously careers stack up against one another over the course of time. But regardless, that is neither here nor there. So yeah, like you mentioned, very road heavy schedule. Like, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I think it's 9 of the first 11.
9 of the first 7 for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. 9 of the first 7. Or I'm sorry, 7 of the first 9.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. 7 of the first 9 on the road. Don't love that. And there are some tough ones in there, right? Like Memphis, Miami might be tough. Who knows? I hope it won't be for us. But Memphis,
second night of
Chicago
back-to-back.
should be a dub. Yeah, second night of a back-to-back. Chicago should be a dub. Cleveland is going to be on national television. That one is going to be pretty interesting. And then you're at Dallas, at OKC, at Indiana, and you're playing Indiana for the second time in like 9-10 days.
Yeah, and Dallas OKC is a back-to-back, which is second OKC's second night of a back-to-back is rough.
Yeah, so it's a little bit tough. And I had like 56 wins down, and I said even that was the first pass, and going through that just a couple of minutes later and looking at that, I was like, okay, like probably doesn't make a ton of sense that we're not going to have any more than 2 consecutive losses all year. Like that just probably isn't going to happen. Like at some point they're probably going to drop like 3 or 4 games in a row, or 4 out of 5, something like that. The sky's going to be falling, that kind of stuff. It happens every season. But I still feel pretty confident in that like 50 to 52 win range. Like I said 52 on the last episode, so that's where I'm gonna hold myself to that. I'm gonna stick to my guns. But like that 50 to 52 win range, I still think is really, really doable.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I wanted to ask you, Jonathan, as we look at this schedule now, like you said, we've had some time to chew over it. If there was some sort of, manufactured situation in your life where it's like, Jonathan, you are only allowed to watch 5 games this season of the Magic. Like, I don't know, make up whatever that scenario is, but you can't, the other 77 you cannot watch, but you can only watch 5 of them. Like, what are the 5? You look at it and like, I can't miss it. I'm going to watch those 5. What do you have?
Unfortunately, you're not going to like my answer because it's really going to be a pretty strong cop out.
Okay.
It would be the first game of the year, just because it by that time it'll have been 5.5 months since we watched Orlando Magic basketball.
Yep.
And then it would probably be the rest of the nationally televised games, other than like the Tuesday, February 25th, like that last one. I mean, maybe I have to include that. Let's see, what road one can I cut out? I'm going to cut out the home game against OKC December 19th. So I'm going to go opening night, Wednesday, October 23rd at Miami, Friday, November 1st at Cleveland on ESPN, Tuesday, December 3rd at New York on TNT, Friday, January 17th at Boston on ESPN, and then Tuesday, February 25th versus Cleveland on TNT. But the worst part about this is I won't even be watching those games on those networks. I'll be watching them on, Bally Sports or whatever, to be determined, to be named later, or whatever it's going to be called. Still waiting to hear an update on that, by the way. But like, I just want to see how this team responds to like the games that just have a little bit more at stake. And at this point, Boston has like, what is it, 30 something nationally televised games. They don't care that they're on ESPN. No. But our team, that is going to add a little bit of an extra element to it at this point in the game and at this point in their development. So those games are going to mean a little bit more to our guys, at least this year. Maybe next year it'll be different. But I want to see, like, especially Friday, January 17th in Boston on ESPN. I'm hoping that's, it probably won't be significant in terms of standings, but I want that to be like a pretty significant matchup for like two teams that are towards the top of the East.
That is
so those are my games.
That's a total cop out. You're right, but
it is. That's how I feel.
I mean, there's a reason the NBA picked those games, right? Like, those are some pretty big matchups. I also have two of those.
I will say, if it weren't for those being nationally televised, those probably wouldn't be the games that I pick.
Right. It's both. It's a chicken egg thing. I think some of them were picked for big reasons, but yeah. Two of those games I have as well. I have another three, and it's funny as I'm looking at this list now. I didn't do this on purpose, but I only have one home game in my list, which is kind of weird. But I picked the first one, Friday Cleveland game on ESPN. The rematch. You're on the road. It's ESPN. I want to watch that. I picked the. Actually, I'll stay in November. I did put the Magic's first game in the Intuit Dome. I want to see Magic at Clippers.
You in the Intuit Dome, man.
I'm a sucker.
I laughed to myself when you were tweeting out the updates for like the schedule when it came out.
I had,
I was like, this kid. I'm obviously not a kid. We've already established how old we are.
Yes.
This old, decrepit, senile man just cannot get away from the Intuit Dome. That he felt that was like a necessary highlight to point out about the schedule.
Hey, I like new buildings, okay? I'm not going to shy away from that. So yes, that's my second one. Magic at Clippers there in November. The third one is the Knicks NBA Cup game.
I was just trying to find that game on the schedule, and I was having a lot of trouble. I know you said the date, but I couldn't remember it.
Nope, November 20th.
Because I don't yet automatically associate that new logo with the Clippers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's going to take some getting used to.
It definitely is. It's something. All right, so there's that one. The NBA Cup game in MSG on TNT to wrap up the Cup group stage. That might be number one for me, and it could go terribly wrong. Like that could be ugly for all the reasons, but it could also be a really, really special night. Okay, next one. This was a tough one. I put at Sacramento in February. Just because, I mean, those games are always just electric. And last year, the double overtime, like, I hope we can find a way to win that game. It should be fun.
Last few years, like going back to Paolo's summer league, what was it, double, triple overtime, that game, Keegan Murray, and
Yep, that was fun. And then the last one, this was tough. I mean, there's a lot of options. I ended up choosing the last home game of the season against Boston. Could be a really fun environment. Could be, well, it will be. It's the last home game of the season, fan appreciation night. It could be an important game, depending on where both those teams are in the standings. And like I said, I didn't have a home game, so I needed to pick a home game. But yeah, those are my five. Thankfully, we don't have to live in this scenario, and we get to watch all 82 or 83, games. If the Magic make the Cup final, we'll see. But yeah, those are the five that, I kind of circled as like I must watch TV, which two of those aren't really. They're just, Kevin being weird. But yeah, those are my five.
Now, we didn't really talk about this before we started recording, but one thing that I wanted to talk about is that Magic tickets went on sale on Thursday. I don't know if anybody else had this experience, but I had an issue where I logged into my Ticketmaster account on my computer, on my Windows PC here, and then I was trying to get into the queue for like the pre-sale, and like it said my IP had been restricted because they had thought I was a bot, I guess. When I looked at an earlier pre-sale, I don't know, maybe they just had a certain amount of tickets designated to those pre-sales, but it looked like tickets were going very, very quickly. I was pleasantly surprised that later in the afternoon when I could actually get in to buy tickets, I was able to get the tickets that I wanted. The last couple of years, like last year against Houston, the year before that against Boston, or was it Boston or was it New York? I'm trying to remember. No, the year before that it was Boston. The year before that it was New York. You and I were there.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, like the opening night, like the home opener, those tickets have been getting more and more expensive. And this year, I feel like I was able to get a little bit better seats than I had last year, but they weren't as expensive. I know you and I had texted about that a little bit, but I just wanted to bring that up because I was happy that that was the case, because I was concerned that like, okay, every season our diehard Magic fans going to be getting priced out more and more of being able to go and watch their team. But so far, so good. I'm sure part of it has to do with the fact that it's the Nets,
right,
and not the Celtics or the Knicks, and the fact that it's not the very first game of the year, right? Like it's our second game, the home opener. But what are your thoughts on that? Unfortunately, you won't be able to be there this year, which sucks. But
yeah, that was interesting. Again, it is the Nets who, according to Vegas, will be the worst team in the league this year.
Mm.
So I don't know if it has to do with that, but it's also a Friday. Last year against Houston was a Wednesday, and Houston's not New York or Boston or LA or whatever. Like, they're middle of the road as far as, they're like the fourth biggest market in the league, but as far as NBA popularity, they're middle of the road.
So is it like New York, LA, Chicago, then Houston?
To my knowledge, it is. I believe so.
Interesting.
Yeah, Houston's huge.
Dallas has got to be up there, right?
I'm pretty sure Houston is fourth. I might be making that up. You guys can, chew me out in the comments, just like the LeBron Christmas thing. But yeah, so that's interesting. Again, not bad, but I think it probably, I guess, just has to do with Brooklyn because if you look across the whole Magic schedule, they tier games, obviously based on the opponent, and I guess even though it's opening night because it's the Nets, it's just a lower tier.
The thought that I had about the difference in pricing between last year and this year, I feel like the classic edition jerseys in the floor being rolled out for the first time that night, maybe that had like a bigger effect on people going to that game maybe than we realized or thought.
Maybe.
I'd be interested to track that data at this point is probably impossible, but that was just another thought that came to mind. Anyways, Kevin, do you want to talk about some chicken?
I do like chicken. I like a lot of different kinds of chicken, grilled chicken, diced chicken, cold chicken, hot chicken, but Jam Hot Chicken is what I like the most. Jam Hot Chicken is located in Winter Park. They're a sponsor of the Six Man Show. They are awesome, and they're serving jams, culture, and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. They're a Nashville and LA-inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated, located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. They're awesome. They're diehard Magic fans, too, which is why we wanted to have them as part of our team here at the show, and so we're pumped to have them once again for this season. The big news at Jam Hot right now is you can now get them on Uber Eats locally there in the Winter Park area, so definitely hit them up that way, or of course you can go visit them at their location. Definitely check them out at jamhotchickenfl.com to check out their hours, their menu, all kinds of fun stuff, and obviously follow them on social media at jamhotchicken. And yeah, when you go there, let them know that the Six Man Show sent you. So yeah, big shout out to Jam Hot Chicken.
I want to take a moment, Kevin, before we move on here, to talk about our patrons. So our patrons, if you're not familiar with what the heck is a patron, so if you haven't heard of Patreon is essentially a platform where you can help support your favorite creators. We have different tiers on our Patreon that you can select from with different levels of benefits depending on what exactly you want to receive from us or whatever works best for you. Now, one of the things that we've done for the longest time is for the last, I think basically since we started our Patreon, is that
3 years now.
Each and every episode we have shouted out our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons on every single episode that we have. And then we also have a section of each one of our YouTube videos at the end where we have like all of the patrons are listed there and we thank them. Over time, and this is a good problem to have and something that we're very thankful for, is that the Hall of Fame and elite tier patron list has grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. Now we're over 75 patrons. And if you're an avid regular listener, you've probably noticed that it takes me longer and longer and longer to read that list. And something that we try to do periodically, but especially at least once a year during the off season, is to gauge what our patrons really value and what they think they really want from the Patreon. So we sent out a survey a few weeks ago, going through, we listed all of the benefits that we give to our patrons, and we wanted them to rank them because we want to see of the benefits that we're giving the Patreon, what do they really value and what do they consider the most important in terms of why they're supporting us. And the weekly or episodic shout outs that we do on each one of these shows here, that was ranked towards the bottom. So it seems like maybe people aren't valuing that a ton. So what we're going to change the way that we do that shout out. We're not going to stop the shout out altogether, but we are no longer going to do the entire list every single episode. And I think that'll be good because it's going to like condense the time that we're talking about the Patreon, which for obvious reasons, we want to plug that and get more people involved in the Patreon. But we also don't want it to take up like a large chunk of the show, kind of like this explanation is now taking up a large chunk of the show. So make this short. What we're going to do moving forward is from those Elite and Hall of Fame tier members, we're going to be shouting out like 5 random Elite and Hall of Fame tier patrons each and every episode. That way we're still doing the shout out. And over time, we'll be able to sort of get through everybody. But gives us an opportunity to talk about the Patreon and give some thanks and give some special shout outs. So the inaugural 5-person Patreon shout out, whatever we want to call it, we're still workshopping that name. Want to give a big thank you to Magic Kid 714, Daniel Anderson Berry, Dylan Fay, Michael Thompson, and Michael Salapong. This episode is brought to you by those wonderful patrons. And if you would like to join the Patreon still, after I've now been hot air windbagging this for the past few minutes, you can go over to patreon.com/the6man show if you would like to financially support the show. Enough about that. Now, Kevin, there are some upcoming contract deadlines that I thought it would be, fun to talk about just for a couple of minutes here. So between now and the start of, well, I guess it's not technically the start of the regular season. It's like right into the start of the season. We have a few deadlines coming up. Number one, not so much a deadline, but somebody becomes extension eligible on October 10th, and that is Wendell Carter Jr. When you hear that Wendell is going to be extension eligible coming up here in just under 2 months, what are your thoughts on that? So he's in the 3rd year now of a 4-year deal. He's set to make $11.9 million this year, $10.8 million in 2025-2026. And then after that season, he will be an unrestricted free agent. Where are you right now in terms of extending Wendell Carter Jr.? Like when I say that, what are your thoughts?
My first thought is, wow, already? We just talked about how as we get older, time flies. But yeah, I'm surprised that we're already here at that. When it comes to the extension, it's, what do we say the date is? October 10th. Yeah, October 10th. So it's before the regular season starts. That's after 1 preseason game, maybe 2. So if the Magic were to, go up until that deadline, it's not like we have a whole sample size of the season to go off of. So all that to say, we've talked a little bit, obviously, this offseason about how Wendell, maybe regressed a little bit last season. A lot of that is probably due to injury. Well, it's almost certainly due to injuries, right? And so in some ways, this could help the Magic a little bit. In that, I mean, his price isn't really skyrocketing at this point, right? If we are talking about an extension, it's not like the Magic are going to have to throw a ton of money at him. Obviously, we've known since day one he is on a very, very friendly contract, team-friendly contract. I mean, descending contract as well. I don't remember what the top number was, but this year he'll make under $12 million, and next year he'll make under $11 million, which for a starting center in this league is excellent, obviously. So all I have to say, if Wendell is up for extension and the Magic would entertain it, I think I'm interested in it as long as that number stays reasonable. I don't think it needs to stay where it is. I think it can go up. But it's not that I want to trade Wendell. I'm not there yet, but it needs to be a tradable contract, because of the makeup of our roster, because of the extensions that are impending. I think it needs to be a tradable roster. So those are my first reactions. I know we're still a couple months away, and we'll obviously get to see him at training camp. We'll see at least 1 preseason game before that, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so it was 4 years, $50 million, average annual value of 12.5, but it started at 14.1, then 13, this year 11.9, next year 10.8. I'm in the same camp as you at this point. Like some people are hearing this like, oh, Wendell's going to be a free agent. Like we need to upgrade. Maybe we should let him walk, whatever. Letting Wendell walk at this point doesn't really help you because of those extensions that you talked about. You don't really have the cap space if Wendell leaves to go out and get somebody else. So I do think that you need to extend Wendell. Now, what is that price point going to look like? I don't know. I think he'll get a pay raise. I don't know if it like how significant it would be. Like, do we see Wendell making $20 million a year? Maybe. It's probably not as crazy as like what came to my mind when I first said that number. Like, oh, $20 million for Wendell seems like a lot, but starting center in the league when he's good and healthy is really solid. I don't know exactly what his market value would be at this point, but I'm right there with you. Whatever it is, I can almost guarantee you it is going to be a tradable deal. Like, I don't see us overpaying for Wendell at this point. And if you do want to upgrade at that position at some point, which I personally do think will be a necessity if for this team to like take like the future steps that they want to, maybe it's not something that you have to do now. But if the goal is like eventually winning a title, I do feel like you probably not, I don't even know if like a better center is the word, but somebody that's like more dependable and gives this team a different like vertical dynamic is, I think, what you would probably eventually want. So I'm right there with you. Extend Wendell. I don't know if it's going to be now or after this season because you're still going to have one more year. So I don't think there's like a rush to get it done right now. I think at the very latest you want to get that done next offseason. But yeah, it needs to be tradable because if you want to make an upgrade, you're going to need to piece some things together to make a move.
Yeah, and I just need to clarify also again. I misread that it's not an extension deadline; it's extension eligibility. So it's not that the Magic have to get it done by October 10th. That's when the window opens. So that's the earliest they can get it done, basically. And so that window extends, obviously into past next season. But anyway, wanted to clarify that. So yeah, they'll have this whole season to extend him. I would be shocked if they extended him before that. Not before that, but I mean, like as that happened, like early on, I don't think there'll be any rush. I'll put it that way to extend him. I imagine that goes into the season. Again, the injuries being a thing, if he's healthy and he's playing great, then great. We'll throw him a bunch of money because he's going to be worth it. But if injuries continue to be a problem, or if he doesn't really return to the pre-injury Wendell form, then yeah, I think they'll have to look at that.
Now we have 3 true deadlines coming up on Halloween, October 31st, 2025-2026 club options for Paolo Banchero, Anthony Black, and Jet Howard. Paolo Banchero's is $15.3 million, Anthony Black $7.9, Jet Howard $5.5. That Paolo Banchero kid, are you picking up the club option?
Yeah, this is tough.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm just kidding. Yes, of course.
I don't know.
100%.
Yes. Anthony Black, Jet Howard. I think these are all like absolutely 100%. Everybody listening to this is like, yeah, obviously they're picking up those club options.
Yep.
And then Jonathan Isaac did have a like guaranteed deadline for January 10th of 2025, but since the renegotiation and the extension happened, the rest of this season is automatically guaranteed. So and then we don't have any like other deadlines or like eligibility dates until the end of June of next year. So we got some time.
JI isn't just reminder, it's not just a guarantee, it's like a big fat guarantee now. It's that big old 25 million guarantee, But yeah, good for him. But yeah, that's fine.
God bless him. Yeah, that's a lot of cheddar right there. All right. Last thing, we're not a ton of Orlando Magic news this week, but the Fanatics Fest is going on, which I had kind of heard about it a few months ago, but I didn't know that it was as big of a deal as it's now has been. Looks really awesome, actually. Seems like it would be a ton of fun to go, even though Kevin and I, we feel a certain way about Fanatics in the way that they've just taken over everything in terms of sports apparel and memorabilia and collectibles and all that kind of stuff.
Definition of a monopoly, by the way. I'm looking forward to the 30 for 30 that someday comes out about them. But anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that. But Paolo Banchero, who was at Fanatics Fan Fest, had an appearance on ESPN's First Take and had a conversation there with Mad Dog Russo, who I think is just a complete clown.
Absolute idiot.
Stephen A. Smith, who definitely likes to dabble in clownery. But basically, like, they asked Paolo, like, what are his expectations pretty much for this upcoming season? And he said that he thinks the Magic could pretty easily be the third or fourth, or should pretty easily be the third or fourth seed. Kevin, what was your thoughts about Paolo's first take appearance and that quote specifically?
Yeah, so for me, it's two parts, right? Like the part of saying, hey, we should be a top 3 or top 4 seed. Absolutely, right? And the fact that there are people on the internet that rolled their eyes about that or made fun of that, they just don't know ball. Like the fact that the Magic were had the same record as the 4 seed this past season, played them in the first round, took them to 7 games, but let's not forget they were right there in line for the 2 seed, in that last week of the season, And again, we've said this before, you can point a lot of fingers at a lot of issues with other teams. It doesn't change the fact that the Magic were right there knocking on the door of the 2 seed. And we're doing that for large parts of the season. So people that say that's ridiculous, they're stupid. And so I definitely think top 4 seed is possible. We talked about this on the last episode. The other part, I told Jonathan I was really hesitant to share this on the show. So I watched it back right before we did the show, and I don't feel as strongly. I'm going to get grilled for this. Okay. The first part of his answer, where he was asked about being a number 1 overall pick and all this kind of stuff.
Which, can we just talk about the way that it was asked?
What an idiot. Yeah, I mean, Russo he's an idiot. So he asked it like, well, Orlando's had a lot of problems with number 1 overall picks,
Failed number 1 overall picks.
Number 1 overall picks. Dwight was all right. Shaq, we know what happened with him. Marcus Fultz is what he said.
Marcus Fultz. Wrong name, wasn't drafted by us.
We didn't draft him. We traded him for Jonathan Simmons, okay? Don't forget that.
And essentially Tyrese Maxey, but we don't need to talk about that.
Jonathan, come on. Anyway, so yeah, he's an idiot. Because obviously Dwight Howard was more than all right. And he didn't even talk about Penny Hardaway. I know he didn't draft him number 1, but anyway. Okay, so he that's how he framed the question, talking about being number 1 overall. And I liked what Paolo said. I hate that I'm saying this, gosh. I liked what Paolo said, but there was a part of me that just it wasn't what my heart wanted. And some people loved what he said, all this kind of stuff. But here's what I didn't love. It was a lot of theys and thems, not we's. It was a lot of referring to Orlando as they, they did this, they did that, instead of we. Now, in the first part, that's right. Like they decided to draft me or whatever, because obviously he wasn't a part of that. But saying take them to new heights instead of take us to heights that haven't been reached in a long time, that's where I start to go. And again, I'm overthinking this. And maybe it's because I'm scarred from my past. But to not hear Paolo talk, he did at the very, very end, and that's why I'm saying when I watched it back tonight.
That's what I was gonna say.
When I watched it back tonight,
just slow it down.
He does incorporate more of the we's and stuff.
We're trying to take a huge jump, keep taking it one level at a time, but we don't want to stop anytime soon. We want to keep going and eventually win a championship.
That's right.
So
I know, but the first part where he says take them to heights that haven't been reached in a long time just felt like I'm going to take them to heights and then I'm going to go do my thing. Anyway, that's how I felt.
No, there's with the Seattle thing, and just trauma, in a scarred history, there's always going to be that thought. But like, it's only been a couple of years, and like the moments that when Paolo's entire career is over, I'm not talking about like Orlando, when his entire career is over, the things that he's really going to look back on and remember about playing for the Magic, those moments haven't even happened yet. Right? So
yeah,
there's, let's just, it's a nothing burger for me. That's what I want to say. I understand that we're so hypersensitive to stuff like this, and it's like all we want to do is for him to get Orlando tattooed across his forehead so he can't ever do anything or go anywhere. But let's just, and look, I'm going back. I'm going through the transcription here. We feel like we're right there. We're right there with all those teams. I remember last year we started the year off. So like there's there's a lot of we's later on in these quotes. So let's just remember that. But no, my biggest takeaway from that was that we should easily be top 3 or top 4 seed in the East. And like saying that with like the level of confidence, I don't know, when people talk about it, like that kid just has it. Like everybody knows what it is, but nobody can really quantify what it is. And I remember Dwight, right? But like my brain was still developing at that time when Dwight first came into the league. And by the time that I was like really super invested in Orlando Magic basketball, Dwight Howard had already set himself in stone as one of the very best players in the league. So there was never a question in my mind of like, does Dwight Howard have it, right? And it seems like for a lot of people, idiots, there's still a question of, does Paolo Banchero have it? I can't tell you what it is. I can tell you that this kid has it.
Yes.
When I hear this kid speak, he just oozes superstar. Like oozes like, I am that dude. I am going to be one of the very best players in the world. The way that he carries himself, the way that he talks, like it's not even about what we've seen him do on the floor. Every time this dude speaks, especially when he speaks in this way, in this context about the Magic, I'm just like, that is a dude. Like there's not a single doubt in my mind that this kid is going to be good enough to get us there. Everything else just depends on what is going to be around him.
Yeah, 100. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, and anyone that watched the playoffs would know that, right? Like that first round series, his first playoff action, by the way, goes out and does that, leads his team to a 7-game series, and I mean leads his team to a 7-game series, and really 6.5 game series. You know, that first half was awesome. Anyway, but yeah, so 100%, I'm all about that. And I think, no, I don't think, I know that those doubters and those haters, they will see someday. Like they will see. It's only a matter of time, and I think it could even be this season. We talked about that earlier, a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it's only a matter of time. Again, 21 years old, and he's doing that. So I have no doubt. I'm excited to see it, and I hope he's in an Orlando shirt for a really long time.
Don't say shirt. I know that's a European soccer thing, but
whatever.
Come on, man. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I was gonna say, speaking of shirt and like, clothes and shoes and things, you're a sneaker guy.
I'm not
more than me.
I like sneakers. I wish I could just like justify spending more money on them.
Right,
like I see a lot of sneakers that come out that I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to have those. But then I'm like, am I really going to drop $200 on a pair of shoes that I'm going to wear once a month, if that? It's just really hard for me to justify that. But I do enjoy sneakers.
So as a guy myself with zero sense of fashion, What did you think about the Paolo stuff this week with, like, I don't know if you saw the Slam Kicks 27.
I did.
And Paolo and the Jordans. And what was your takeaway from all that stuff?
Well, I think this Slam cover better than the last one.
Yep. 100%. 100%.
I mean, I respect the Jinko jeans.
I don't.
On the Slam cover from last year. Now, I do wish there was Orlando Magic stuff incorporated in this new one instead of like the Michael Jordan, short or whatever. But like the Paolo like player editions that we saw in that video. First of all, I think his logo is awesome. Like there's only so much that you can do with a P and a 5, and I think they like really did a good job. I can't wait for his like official signature line in a few years. But like especially like I think he called them the Paolo Veras.
Right.
Those were incredible.
Vera, yeah.
The like the great P5s, those were really sick. I know when he eventually gets a signature shoe, I know it's going to be awesome, and I know I'm going to wear it not only like to play basketball in, but I know that I'll probably end up wearing them casually as well. And I know that we're just a few years away from that, and I don't care what the price tag is on those. I will be buying those.
Yeah, and I'm going to look like a goofy old dad, but I'm still going to wear them. It's going to be great. I can't wait.
Well, you just have to find an all-black pair.
Right, exactly. That's what I need.
Yeah.
All black, or if they give me magic blue, obviously I can wear it with my magic gear.
Oh, you'll get some of those for sure.
But black on black, that'd be awesome too. I'd take that.
Yeah. Right now in my rotation, I think it's the penny. I don't remember if they're the 4 or the 5s. I have the white and magic blue pennies, and then I have they like did a retro release of the Star like T-Max from way back in the day. So I have those. So adding the P5s is just like a necessary thing that you have to do. And I'm really need to get like a legit pair of like retro Jordans, but this year's release I've been looking at, it doesn't look like there's any like magic blue colors coming out. Like the royal like ones that they came out with a few years ago that were blue and black. It seems like I've missed my opportunity for those, but anyways, last thing that I wanted to talk about is just to remind everybody of some key Orlando Magic dates over the course of the next couple of months here. So really the next thing for us is going to be Media Day, which is going to be September 30th. It's a Monday. They'll have training camp that entire week. And then the first preseason game is Monday, October 7th at 1:30 Eastern in New Orleans, which the time of that, I know Kevin's talked about it a lot. It doesn't make any sense. Funny. And then Wednesday, October 9th at San Antonio at 8 o'clock Eastern. Friday, October 11th at home versus New Orleans. And then we don't have a like international, like there's no Flamengo game or anything like that this year. We wrap up the preseason Friday, October 18th at home against the 76ers.
A week later, by the way, which is still weird to me.
A whole week off, which is really odd. And then Wednesday, October 23rd, 5 days later, the start of the season. Part of me like wants to find a way to make that trip to Miami, but I'm pretty confident we're probably going to do a watch party that night.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like, oh man, trying like being at the first game of the season, whether it's in your building or not, is always pretty special. One of these years, that's going to be maybe we'll do 2 road trips that year. We'll do like if the first game is away, we'll do that, and then we'll do another road trip at some point like throughout the year. But like, making the trip to let the boys know, like, hey, we're with you from day one. We're on the road with you.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to go. Can I just go back to that New Orleans 1:30?
if you must, yeah.
Well, the only thing I was gonna say, like, this better be like a field trip thing. Like, there better be like 10,000 kids that just have the time of their lives. That's the only explanation I can come up with it. Like, it has to be. Like, if that's the reason, cool. I am all for getting NBA basketball in front of, kids and stuff. So if that's the reason, cool. That's great. If that's not, if it's just a random, Monday for some reason, there's got to be a backstory. Maybe New Orleans has some sort of holiday that day.
Have you already looked at, like, I think you did look at the Smoothie King Center schedule to see if they had some kind of event later that night, and I'm pretty sure that you came to the conclusion that this just didn't make sense at all.
Yeah, no, I don't think they. I know I did that. I don't remember seeing anything. So
no, I remember us having a conversation, and you told me that no, they have nothing going on. This is so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It is so stupid. And in fact, I don't even think the Pelicans have officially announced their preseason yet, which is pretty funny. Yeah, they haven't yet. So. I'm sure once they officially announce their preseason, maybe they'll include it's a field trip day, and that'll be fun. But whatever. Yeah.
That'll
the biggest crowd they've had there in a while.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Not going there for a game, that's for sure.
Kevin went and watched what was it, FSU versus Clemson?
No, it was LSU. LSU at the Superdome.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And Kevin just said that town just reeks of urine and vomit. So.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it is.
So
if you're the kind of person that just wants to get absolutely hammered, I'm sure it's a great town. But for me, that's not my cup of tea. And I was just like, the food's good, but outside of that, I was going to say,
there's got to be other areas that aren't, the bourbon
of course,
street
and we did that
experience.
Of course, we did that. We did some awesome stuff. There's great food, but I live in Savannah, Georgia. Like, the food is very comparable. Like, it's a very similar. Obviously, they have the whole Cajun thing that we don't. But it's Southern, food. But anyway, all I had to say, I have zero desire to go back to New Orleans, especially now. If it's a big sport, let's say the Magic play the Pelicans in the finals, obviously I'm going to go. But am I going to see the Magic play the Pelicans at 1:30 Eastern on that Monday in the preseason? No, I'm good.
I don't know that I would watch the Pelicans play the Magic 1:30 in the preseason in Orlando.
Yeah.
That's just interesting. All right, Kev, anything else before we wrap up here?
Oh, no. The Pelicans did announce their preseason, so but they didn't say anything about why. It just says daytime tip off. So anyway, that's all. I'm done talking about the Pelicans and the preseason and blah blah blah. But no, I'm good. That's it. Let's wrap.
All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So yeah, now that we have the schedule, we're going to try to get some guests on and talk about the Magic season now that we have a better idea of what that's going to look like. So be sure to tune in. When do we release episodes? Monday and Thursday. We're going to keep it going here. It's been one of those weeks for me, but we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See you.
Thanks for listening to the Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!